which she sent to one of her subordinates saying, that classified stuff, take the marking off it, cut and paste it, and send it to me on my non-secured server. Only a criminal mind could suggest such a thing, masking state secrets and sending them on a non-secure, non-government server. So the evidence of her guilt and the provability of her guilt is profound. Her worst nightmare is not Bernie Sanders, it's the professionals in the FBI. And
all right, so there you have it. Her worst nightmare is not Bernie Sanders, it's the officials in the FBI. From several sources, it's looking clearer and clearer. The guilt is very clear. I think it's very clear to all of us that she is guilty of something. I don't know if it's laws, but she wasn't honest with America. She was just like Bill. I didn't have sex with that woman, or sexual, however he stated it. I didn't have seen anything that said top secret or classified on it. She's doing the word game. But like Napolitano said, he said his sources are indicating that it's going to go. The FBI is going to suggest an indictment. It's going to go before the Department of Justice, and Lynch takes her marching orders from Obama, who coincidentally had Hillary out there saying, hey, he might make a good Supreme Court judge. If he tells Lynch not to take any action, then many think that the FBI will say, well, let's just hold up there. Then we're gonna have a bunch of people that are quitting, and we're gonna reveal the information that was in this examination of her files. All right, this is Francesco Abbruzzino. This is the Uncensored Report. It is a one-man show. I do everything from the research to this production to the social media to the website. Everything is truly one man. I post everything on the site, so if you want to complain and yell, do it to me. Apparently a lot of people like doing that. All right, it's unedited, unscripted. Basically, I pull up the documents that I want to discuss and I roll with them. We do start covering just the headlines that are on my Scoop National page first. So let's go ahead and scoot over there, because for some reason I'm getting a ton of new subscribers and viewers. I'm up to, what am I at right now? Almost, I'll finish the day close to 800,000 people engaged for the week, which is pretty impressive for a one-man operation. I mean, if you look at 800,000 just on this page, and then you look at all my other social media, my shows, my LinkedIn's, my Twitters, everything, I'm reaching close to 4 million people a month, which is pretty amazing for a one-man operation. All right, let's go ahead and cover this news. Most schools, districts in the state give teachers the option to include cursive in their curriculum, and they're thinking about making it mandatory soon. This is actually, I have no problem with this. Amazing thing. We went to Italy. My sisters lived down there, so we took my kids down there. We put them into Italian schools, and that's all Italians did was cursive. And my kids had to sit there and learn cursive. It was pretty impressive. And I started thinking about American school systems back then when the kids were going through all this. Wendy's, we have yet another data breach, just showing you how insecure these secure servers are throughout corporate America, throughout your own home, throughout our government entities, and everywhere. It's open to sabotage. Just a sick person here. Florida man charged with raping his paralyzed stepdaughter. What a low life. Megyn Kelly, Trump sent this out and said, so this bimbo wants to ask presidential questions, basically talking about her GQ shot. It is a hot GQ shot. She's very attractive and very intelligent. I just love these guys hanging out. I could look at this all day. Some guys hanging out at the bar. How cool is that? All right, what else we got here? Okay, let's stop. We're going to take a listen to this. This basically talks about what you're seeing a lot is with Obamacare. I went ahead just out of curiosity. I went through the process to see if I could get Obamacare for a family of 4. And the subsidies and all that stuff. It basically came out cost me more than what I'm paying now. And it's expensive. It's not a cheap proposition. The only thing that Obama really does is help people that didn't have insurance basically get onto Medicaid on the state programs. So let's take a quick listen to this report.
I had employer-based good insurance until my husband lost a job. And then I had a plan that was, I guess, a major medical plan. So we never used it, but we had it. It was about like $300 a month for us. And then he got another job, got insurance, lost it, got another job, and we're still without right now.
Jeannie Hoffman is a self-employed mother of 5 from Gahanna, Ohio. Like Greg Bardis, her experience on the health exchange created more problems than solutions.
I suppose we'll be paying the fine. For us, it would be between $1,200 and $1,400 a month. It's more than our house payment. We probably don't spend that much on medical in a year.
And that's about accurate from my research.
It's not even feasible to purchase.
Jeannie Hoffman and Greg Bardis both realized, with or without insurance, they were struggling to find primary care. So they became a part of a growing trend: cash for care and concierge medicine.
So concierge medicine really is a market response to a back to the future process that's saying this is how it used to be done. Let's take a page from how it used to be done 30 years ago.
I can tell you, being in the medical industry, they're seeing this a lot more where people are going to these cash plans. And in terms of her saying $1,000 or $1,300 a month is too expensive, that's dead on accurate. Mine came to over $1,000 a month after subsidies, and that's for a family of 4, which is a little younger. When you're a little older, it's going to get a lot more expensive because you're going in there a lot more for your health needs. Let's go back to the story.
I like it because I know what it's going to cost me when I walk in. That great plan was with a huge deductible.
And that is a great thing with these plans. You got huge deductible. Mine, I think it's $10,000. You don't know what their allowable fee is on these plans. So you go in there, and people don't realize what happens is, let's take a chiropractor. You go in, you get adjusted. You get put on an EMS. You get put on hot and cold. And then they tell you, go over here and do some stretching and stuff. That's a 97110. Next thing you know, you got a $300 bill that they're turning into insurance. Well, the allowables on that might be, let's say, $100 or $150. Well, you're going to have to pay that towards there. And a lot of times, like I remember I was at a hospital and the guy just handed me some DME, some medical equipment for my cut foot. And I said, well, how much is this? And he didn't expect it, because what happens is, I know this because DME will essentially you'll buy a product. We used to buy products, a TENS unit for $25, and resell this very same TENS unit for $1,000. And that's how the market works. So let's continue with this.
And out-of-pocket expenses and co-insurance, and it's really complicated. I'd rather just come here and write a check and know I'm getting good care.
When it comes to concierge medicine, the concierge doctor says, okay, I cannot make money doing the cheering game. I pay too many people for processing my claims, I wait too long, I get too many claims rejected, I didn't get into medicine to file claims, I got into medicine to help people. That's why I got into medicine. And concierge medicine gives the opportunity to say, I'm going to change the game.
All right, so that's interesting, and concierge medicine is like that. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Let me just send this out real quick. On my local scoop pages, which I have over 60,000 followers on, there's a major backup on 75, so I thought I'd send that out. It's actually backup that it's like a parking lot. All right, so interesting stuff there, and I can attest to a lot of the stuff that she was saying because I am in the industry. And what's this say? Susanna says the deductible so high is like not having any insurance anyways. That's not true. And Suzanne, she must be a troll, because essentially you got it up there at $10,000 for major medical. When you're older, major medical. You go into a hospital, for a basic doctor visit, it might be $200, $300. What happens if you slice your foot? I sliced my foot, it was 10 grand. All right, and that's just for that whole treatment of that visit. It's easy to exceed 10 grand. So what they call it is major medical, and that's what you're purchasing just to cover any major financial hit from it. We're going to listen to this real quick. This is about the dad that was arrested. He was arrested for, for taking away his daughter's cell phone, but he won it in court yesterday.
His daughter's cell phone. I'm serious. Ronald Jackson took the phone from his 12-year-old after seeing an inappropriate text, but his ex-wife reported him to the cops.
Why would you need to go arrest somebody for something like that? Don't you have better things to do as a police officer? Aren't there bigger crimes in the city to go take care of?
You would think so. A grand jury acquitted Jackson of all charges.
amazing what you can do to people, going out and having this dad arrested, the ex-wife, because he took away his daughter's cell phone, and he did it because she was sending inappropriate text on there. Amazing story. A lot of people thought that was coming from The Onion yesterday, and no, it's not an Onion story. Let's see. The next one we have down here is Special Ops. Is this guy pinned a letter to the Pentagon basically saying, hey, look, the Obama administration needs to stop giving out specifics about our special operations. It is hurting us, and it needs to end. A 15-year-old three-legged pit bull. You know, you always hear bad stories about pit bulls. I think I put up an attack the other day. That's a good story where the pit bull came in and helped the family. Tragic story, 6 dead in apparent murder-suicide, and it looks to be that the victims are all related, and this was up in Chesapeake, so that's sad. We're going to take a quick look. This is the Space Shuttle Challenger, and basically this happened in 1986, and let's take a quick look.
At 11:40 a.m. this morning,
There you go.
space program experienced a national tragedy with the explosion of the Space Shuttle Challenger.
I remember watching this, and it is tragic what happened there. I was a young kid in 1986. I just graduated from high school in 85. Still remember that. This story is still getting some traction out there where vets are upset that the Wounded Warriors Project is blowing money that is donated on stuff like fancy parties, big meal tickets, expensive hotels, lavish conferences, instead of giving it back to the troops. And you see this a lot with nonprofits. I think I touched on it yesterday with the Y, where only 3% was going back to the community in scholarships and stuff, and that's because their expenses were so high. Now, I don't think they were doing this lavish stuff like this, but that's what occurs at a lot of these nonprofits. That's why when someone calls me and says, Frank, can you help me out on the local page? You got 60,000 people. I want to put my nonprofit stuff out there. I research and see essentially how much they're giving back, and are they truly a nonprofit, or are they just in the nonprofit category to make a profit? Zika virus, they're saying this can be spread by common mosquitoes, and it's starting to spread all over America. You're seeing it like crazy. I think I got a video to show in a second on it, but it's concerning. And what happens is you get bitten by a mosquito. Let's say you come up from South America, you got bitten down there, you come up here, a mosquito lands on you here in America. They get your blood, they spread it off to somebody else. It's a hazardous virus that's out there, and we all should be concerned because it looks like it's starting to spread significantly in the United States. This is a missing 15-year-old girl, Bianna. She's been missing since Wednesday. Unfortunately, nobody shares these, and I don't get it. On my I'll put a missing person on my local page. They get shared like crazy. Put it on a national page, nobody wants to share it. Why? Well, this person's missing. Why wouldn't you want to help find this young lady? All right, DC out there trying to get some revenue. $1 million in parking tickets after the blizzard. The thing is, there's nowhere to park. The snow gets piled up. The plows throw the snow on the cars, and they're ticketing them for still keeping the cars there. Amazing. Okay. Judge rules FBI running a child porn site for 13 days was not outrageous conduct. Not at all. Listerine just isn't a mouthwash. France, I put this out there, they're appeasing the Iranian leader. Basically, there was alcohol and wine being served, so the Iranians said, hey, if that's there, we're not going to go. And the French said, okay, well, see you later. We're not going to remove the alcohol, so they canceled the meeting. Unlike the Italians, who covered up all the great historic art so that the president wouldn't see nudity. This guy, a high school student in L.A., gets the perfect score on the AP Calculus exam. One brainiac there. We don't need to read about the doggy style guy. There's the cover up of Italian magazines where they conceal new statues for the leader. Girl who defended herself against a migrant attack with the guard. Guess what? She's being villainized, and the victim is getting fined because she had the audacity to use pepper spray on a migrant that was just doing what all migrants do: rape you, sexually assault you. Black woman, husband, either you vote for Trump or we're getting a divorce. This is a poor kid with that Zika virus. I think I have an actual video though. I'm hoping it pops up on here. Ferguson, they reach a tentative deal on a police overhaul. That's nationalized police. Basically the feds came in and said, this is what we need to do as a nation. Either you adhere to this and follow these federal guidelines, or we may cut your money off on certain elements, wherever they can control that. So it's a bit ridiculous. This just talks about all the snow that's piled up, enough to fill the Empire State Building 24 times, or Yankee Stadium 66 times. So that's a lot of snow. Oregon standoff. Bundy's telling them, hey, go get out of there, guys. Let's call it a day. Cruz was over there saying, I'll give $1 million. Donor stepped up and said, a super PAC will give $1.5 million if you to your charity, Trump, if you debate. Cruz. This is American Airlines, and it was turned back to Heathrow because I think 7 of the 13 staff on the plane passed out or got very sick, and 3 customers on the plane did. They did not find anything different on there, and they're not sure what happened on the plane. What else we got here? This guy goes out on a floaty alligator in the pond with a bunch of gators. Guy with instead of giving cash bonuses, companies are giving sex dolls. Christian hymn being renamed Allah's Love is Wonderful. Here we go. Here's a Zilka kid. Let's watch this real quick. Hold on one second. Let me get it up here. That's a woman. She fell down a well taking a selfie. Okay, that's one heck of a selfie, huh? All right, here we go. Oh man, hold on. I'm using up too much bandwidth. There we go. Look at that poor kid. Is it going to come up? There we go.
Her life is full of doctor's appointments after being bitten whilst pregnant by a mosquito carrying the virus. When Zhao was born, his head was much smaller than average, which left him brain damaged. He will probably need care all his life, but doctors still know very little about the virus.
You have to give them a lot of attention as well as love, but this child will never have a normal development. They'll always have some degree of impairment.
Veronica already has 3 daughters and earns little, but she's besotted with her new son.
Quando ele nasceu, que eu escutei ele chorar.
When he was born and I heard him cry, for me there was no deformity. It was a blessing that God gave me, an angel for me to look after. He's my prince.
And there you go. The Zika virus and the impact it's having on many individuals out there is quite alarming. The spread is quite alarming, how it's spreading throughout the United States and even Europe now. Something to keep an eye on and monitor. How about this? Child brides allowed at Danish asylum centers, and they're allowed to sleep with their older husbands on weekends. The white actor playing Michael Jackson, a lot of outrage there. What do we got here? A daughter. Yeah, all right, we're done with this stuff. There's a lot of stuff on there that we just don't need to cover. What I call it is the fluff. And my numbers, having an 800,000 person reach a week, is because I put those type of fluff things in there, and those get the numbers up. And you put a serious article in there, the articles that I like to cover, and you might get 300 people that look at it, 1 person looks at it, whatever the small amount is. All right, they're saying U.S. durable good orders have plunged in December with the Baltic Dry Index. That explains that. The ships haven't been coming here. Nobody's ordering them. Besides that, it looks like the Dow futures are up 73. S&P up 10, NASDAQ up 40. So it looks positive. It was briefly down until the durable goods missed, and then it shot up. Not sure why it would shoot up on negative news. All right, let's go ahead and I'm trying a new concept where I give you some visual stuff, and those are the headlines from my Uncensored report page. I put that up there. Let's see how this flows today. I had it down in the bottom corner yesterday. Wasn't a huge fan of it. It kind of looked weird and awkward, so I got rid of that. I do want to cover about the growing animosity towards government, because this is out there. A few people ran with this story. It's been in the headlines for about the last 3 or 4 days now, and it's as if there's one thing in America that's bringing everybody together, and that's the fact that most of us do not like government. And CBS, they started this article. It came out, and it was Americans hate the U.S. government more than ever. And on average, with this survey, they calculated, and this was by Real Clear Politics, that they found that 63% of all Americans believe the country is heading in the wrong direction, and only 28% of Americans believe the country is heading in the right direction. And in just a few days, the real ballot are going to be cast. They're going to be cast over in Iowa real soon here. And a lot of people are saying, look, we're tired of government. We're going for what is perceived as the outsider candidates. Bernie Sanders, he's starting to see a huge surge. Outsider candidate. Donald Trump, outsider candidate, definitely. Ted Cruz, even though he's a senator, and Sanders was a senator too, but even though Cruz is a senator, he's an outside candidate. He was not well liked within the Senate arena. And so they're all going to be casting their votes in Iowa. And these 3 individuals should more than likely be the beneficiaries of it, because people have a bad feeling regarding what's going on in Washington. And it's not just Barack Obama or the Obama administration or the members of Congress and the Senate. Americans are just disgusted all around, even with federal agencies out there. They looked at federal agencies, and the low for them has fallen to an 8-year low. So it's all around at every level of the government. And so, they asked the question out there, are you fed up with the government? Are you fed up with the way it's running? Is there an easy fix? And unfortunately, there isn't. It's not a simple fix where you go out and you just say, oh, let me turn the screw here. We got this all fixed. Because America today is divided more than ever. 50% right, 50% left, or 45, and then 10 in the middle. Who knows? But if you go out there, you ask 100 people, how do we go out? How do we fix this country? They're going to give you very different answers. There is no longer a shared value or principle out there that unites us all together. And it's going to be nearly impossible to come up with specific solutions to resolve a lot of the issues that we're seeing out there on a daily basis. And you would think that the Constitution, our principles enshrined in that, would unite us, but sadly those are gone. In fact, if you go out and you call yourself, like I call myself a constitutionalist, and unfortunately that's become synonymous with the word terrorist in the government's eyes, in the nation's eyes, and what major media is painting a picture of constitutionalists. Now, do I look like a terrorist? I don't think I am. I love my country. I just want us to do what we're supposed to with our Constitution. Unfortunately, though, there's a good chance that if people know I'm a constitutionalist, they won't watch this show. They'll call me a right-wing wacko. They'll call me a conspiracy guy. They'll want to come over and lock me up. They'll want to take away my gun. They'll do all that stuff, and that's because we're in an increasingly dividing nation that gets their information based upon propaganda that's being spilled out there. And you're seeing that with this election season. You got on the left, you got this admitted socialist that's generating a ton of enthusiasm. I think he had 10,000 people show up at 2 events yesterday. Not as much as Trump, but a lot more than Hillary has shown up. Hillary, a lot of the liberals think, hey, she just isn't liberal enough. I was talking about how she's a neocon when it comes to war. That's not a liberal stance. And they feel she no longer represents their values. On the other hand, you got the Republicans, and they're all gravitating towards Donald Trump and Ted Cruz. Jeb Bush is falling off of radar. Rubio is, he's in 3rd place. But these 2 top candidates, they're a complete break from the Republican establishment. Ted Cruz likes to compare himself leaning more towards a libertarian, and Donald Trump likes to say that too. There's certainly no national consensus out there about what we should do to get going back as a nation. On the far left, they want us to take into a full-blown socialism and follow Bernie's lead. Those that support Don or Ted want us to move in a more conservative direction. But, you know, even if you look at Republicans, there's disagreement on how to fix this country. Establishment Republicans, they have a great disdain for Trump and Cruz, and you're seeing that with the attacks that you're seeing on a regular basis. And they're quite determined to do whatever they can to stop these guys from getting elected. You got the lead out there, and they're accustomed to anointing the nominee for the party. And they don't like Trump. They don't like Cruz, so they don't want to make it easy for them. So it's not going to be as easy as going out there and winning the electorate. And in truth, the Republican Party, somewhere less than half the population of the United States today, is at war with itself. Supporters of Trump have significantly different visions than supporters of Cruz. And the establishment wing wants nothing to do with either candidate. Neither. And they'll pull out every trick in the book to stop either Cruz or Donald from getting the position of the Republican nominee. And they'll probably do it at the Republican convention if it boils down to that. There are some bags of tricks that they can pull out. You know, I think it's if you don't have more than 60% of the delegates by the end of the process, they'll do what they call a brokered convention. And I don't think there's been one for decades. If you see that, you'll probably see an establishment candidate come up like a Jeb Bush or Rubio, Christie, or Kasich. All four of those I do not like. Do not like all four of those. You know, if there's some miracle and Trump or Cruz end up getting the nomination, they'll move heaven and earth. I think the Republican elites will move heaven and earth to get Hillary in there because she represents their values more than a Ted and a Donald. I could be wrong, but I think I'm hitting the nail on the head on this. Don't you love when you bring your dog to work and he decides he's going to bark like crazy? Okay, I did want to talk about it. It was an interesting story, and I talk about this a lot, and it got in my head again. I thought I'd come out there because I got a lot of new subscribers and stuff, and just talk about how America is responsible for creating this whole terrorism concept. Because I've talked about it piecemeal throughout the shows all the time. And if you go out there, there's this council. It's called the Council of Foreign Relations. It's a pro-government think tank. Last year, the Obama administration, they say, dropped just over 23 bombs on predominantly Muslim countries. And whether or not you believe this force is justified or problematic, the carnage is irrefutable. If you just look at Iraq and Syria, these are the two most troubled countries out there. Over 20,000 bombs were dropped on there. Do you think they're going to have a love affair with us? Do you think they're going to want to kiss us before we go to bed? And the U.S. government and the mainstream media, which some people call the fourth branch of the U.S. government, have tried to thwart and undermine the whole civilian casualty figures that are resulting from the operation. Because if you look at a government report that came out, it was real strange. They said the U.S.-led airstrikes in Syria and Iraq have avoided civilian casualties significantly. They believe they've reported 25,000 reported casualties, but out of that, only 6 were civilians. But if you look at the numbers, something's not right. Because you got to look at just the fact that 42 civilians died in the airstrike in Afghanistan. And this report covers Syria, Iraq, and I should have said other countries. 42 in Afghanistan. So how is it only 6 civilians have died? Are they not counting that hospital in Kunduz where they killed all those innocent civilians with a bomb? It just disappeared out of the headlines. It was there for a couple days and then gone. Now, they claim that aggressive military action is required in order to effectively neutralize terror groups that do not hold up to a logical criticism. It doesn't hold up to logical criticism. Because history shows us that this military force has only strengthened the overall capability of the terror groups that we're trying to exacerbate the conditions on. If you look at 2014, the CIA estimated the size of ISIS to be about 20 to 31,000 fighters. While as recently as January, they estimated again at about 30,000. So in other words, the U.S.-led airstrikes appear to be weakening ISIS as much as avoiding civilian deaths because these numbers aren't adding up. How do you start off with 20 to 31,000, kill 25,000, yet they're at 30,000? There's no way they're recruiting that many. It's impossible. If you look at if you pull the recruitment numbers in, you'll see that. Something's skewed here. And this whole war on terror has proven to strengthen the cause of the jihadists, providing them the legitimacy to recruit new numbers and bolster their ranks, but not at 30,000, not at that level. Even if you look at Afghanistan, the Taliban seen a resurgence. They're stronger today than they were before we went in there. They just sat aside, collected ammo, built up their forces. As soon as we pulled out, boom, the power vacuum started sucking away. So we spent billions of dollars. We've had tons of countless lives have been lost on our side, on their side, civilians. You've had jihadists that have popped up like ISIS, al-Nusra. The Taliban are thriving. So where are we winning? How is this war on terror going for us? This war on terror without limits. And we don't have a clear definition of what victory means, unless that means the death or capture of a terrorist that we see every once in a while put on TV. It's alarming, and we need to pay attention to this stuff. You got your politicians out there, you got your major media, the pundits out there, the citizenry. They keep insisting the world can be controlled and shaped into our image with some tough militarism, some aggressive actions, and we can eradicate this evil. But that's not what's happening. The stronger evil is coming up. A stronger evil is coming up, and it's alarming to me as an individual, for me, for my kids, for everybody. I wanted to take a second and talk about the First Amendment, our civil right. This will just a quick note that I started thinking about. I was reading an article and I basically put it down on paper so I could remember it. And it's basically, Obama came out, he revealed his key agenda item was to basically go out there and undermine our Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. And he did this like they do so many things, under the pretense of solving America's gun problem. They take away our privacy rights under the pretense of trying to save us and look after our best interests with the Patriot Act. But he directly referenced confiscation of guns as a centerpiece of his agenda. And he brought up the fact that, hey, other countries do this, Great Britain, Australia and stuff. But Great Britain and Australia, although they have confiscated guns, they've had dubious results with it. But he didn't mention that in there. He just mentioned the fact that they've gone out there and done it. And Obama will sit there and he'll insist that we need to politicize this and pursue it with vigor. Now, on his New Year's resolution to the town hall, the gun control town hall meeting that he had, he promoted it. He went out there with his agenda, his anti-2A agenda, and he politicized it essentially, the gun control. He said it's sensible for the country. Sensible to disarm the citizenry. Is that sensible? And in what world is that sensible? He deceitfully insists that incremental gun controls dictates we're not the first step down a slippery slope to confiscation of the guns, but it is. He says it's not a plot to take away guns, but it is. Incremental steps to take away your rights. And they do this through lead, through ammo purchases, lead production. And I would agree only in that it was not a first step towards confiscation. But we're well on our way down the slippery slope. And he doesn't seem to care. He's hoping that most Americans will not realize it. And it's concerning. He did his town hall confab that I was talking about. He referenced gun violence in his State of the Union. I think he only mentioned it like once. And a lot of people are wondering, well, where is this coming from? And it was interesting from this article I read yesterday where they said, Michael Bloomberg advises Obama. And the concern is that there's a quid pro quo deal that's been cut. Bloomberg's a huge advocate of gun control. He wants to get all of our guns away from us. And this gun confiscator wants to keep the gun control agenda front and center. And so there's the talk in the back rooms is that Bloomberg promised to be a major funder and fundraiser for Obama's future presidential library if he keeps the pressure on for gun confiscation. And, once he goes, Bloomberg's hoping Hillary will win. And she'll keep up because she's on the same gun confiscation page as Bloomberg. But now he's getting worried. Hillary might not win. Bernie Sanders is a pro-gun advocate. So now Bloomberg's testing the water. He's out there saying, okay, maybe I need to run for this. What happens if Hillary gets a federal indictment and doesn't win? And again, they're calling it common sense gun reform. It's not. None of the proposals that are on Obama's gun wish list would help bring an end to the homicide rate. There's no proven facts that this rate would go down. And I think I put out a video the other day, I know I did, where they talked about the fact that you look at Chicago. Chicago's got some of the tightest gun controls. It's ran by Democrats, and it's a mess. And the people are calling them out on it. It's a mess. Is that a pretense of what's to come here? He wants to put our sensibility, our safety, and they're nibbling away at our most fundamental assurance of liberty from this generation to the next, to avoid tyranny, the right to bear and keep arms. And we need to continue. We need to be the keepers of this flame. We need to preserve this liberty. That Second Amendment guarantee is not negotiable. It's not up to some kind of common sense infringements that Obama wants to put on there. It's not changeable due to public safety. In fact, this most fundamental of all alienable rights is the most sensible assurance to public safety. When I'm sitting here with my family and I don't have the security or bodyguards that Obama has or Hillary has, guess what? When I get a group of thugs coming in my house, I got a gun. That's going to save me. Not calling the police and having them take 5 minutes to get here. That is not going to save me. And so you got the primaries coming, and they're going to determine the contenders for this seat, for the president's seat. And this should be a critical issue out there. With the socialists, the leftists out there, our living constitution, these things are all at stake. And we need to stay focused. We need to stay aware of what's going on out there. And that's all I have to say, I guess, on that subject. Now, I did want to do one thing. We're going to watch this video real quick. We're going to just talk real briefly. I'm not going to go into much about Planned Parenthood and the political assassination of these people that exposed Planned Parenthood. So first, let's watch the video just real quick here. I'm not going to watch all of it, just real quick.
Oh, we have already a relationship with ABR.
Business had that.
Using them for over 10 years, a really long time.
Whenever we have a smooth portion of liver, we think that's good. There are no financial benefits.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely. And we're happy. Look, we look forward to the facts coming out.
Right. So I'll just take a couple minutes.
Sure.
And it's my assistant.
Hi.
So.
Oh, you're warm. I want to hang on to you.
So I was talking to Mary about what I'm trying to offer to clinics a procurement service, and she said, you know all about this.
Oh, we have already a relationship with
you-
ABR.
Oh, okay. So
that the sort of thing you're doing?
it's a
Yeah.
startup, and I mean, I want to get in every state. That's my goal.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to connect with medical directors of either private, smaller.
All right, and you can see the rest of that on my site. Let's get you back to this. I wanted to touch on this because I think it's a political indictment here and a political hack job. And I say that, and I mentioned it yesterday briefly. And essentially, look, if you're a cynic out there, you might sit there and say, hey, look, no good deed goes undone. No good deed goes unpunished. And much of America was aghast, as I was when we saw this video. And there was a few other videos, I think a total of 9, showing Planned Parenthood out there is basically negotiating for the selling of baby body parts. And they were doing it coldly, they were doing it cavalierly, and they seem to be just a thing they do, a practice they do, selling baby body parts out there. And this Planned Parenthood guy, he went out there, Project Veritas, and they exposed this. They exposed it. And here's the sad irony with all this, folks. They indicted these 2 individuals out there, and it marks a stunning reversal to pro-life activists. They went out, they seized these secret videos as evidence that Planned Parenthood was doing this atrocious thing of selling body parts. Yet the government, the judge, decided to come after them. There was no intent. These guys didn't have intent on buying it. Yet this judge decided that she was going to prosecute them and indict them for trying to purchase the body parts and do nothing with Planned Parenthood. It's obviously that this is politically motivated. And all of us should be worried about that when a judge has so much power as to ignore what's really going on out there. Because I was thinking about it yesterday, something else came up. It wasn't really an article. I think I was watching a YouTube video or something, and it came up, and I was thinking about it, and I'm like, it's an atrocity what's happening here. And I think yesterday I mentioned that the FBI went out, and they were, with that terrorist in Milwaukee, they were saying, okay, this guy's a known terrorist, he wants to get guns, let's act like we're selling him these guns. Well, they weren't selling the guns legally, but there was no intent to sell them, and so they won't be prosecuted. But yet, these 2 individuals are. I did want to talk too about the market. I'm always talking the economy, I don't know why. And I'm not an economic guy, but what happened yesterday, we saw the Fed come out, and we watched the stocks, they continue to crash. A lot of people are wondering, who can we blame? You always want to blame someone, right? Should we blame the Fed? They're more responsible for creating the current financial bubble that we're in right now. What the Fed did is the Federal Reserve pushed interest rates all the way to the floor, and they injected lots of money out there. They had a printing press of money going out there. They injected it into the financial markets. They called it the QE, QE1, QE2, 3, 4. And what this did is push stock prices up wildly to artificial levels, and I think 30 to 40% above where it should actually be, the market levels. And the only way that would have been possible to keep stock prices at those wild artificial levels would have been to keep the interest rates where they were. But the Federal Reserve came in and said, we're going to end this, what we recklessly created, and we're going to go ahead and raise the rates now. We're going to go with that, and we're not going to put out a ton of money anymore. Quantitative easing's going. We're going to embark on a new, slowly raising interest rates program. And it's going to have severe consequences. And everybody knew this. Janet Yellen knew it. Some people say she didn't care. Problem is, I think they care. I think the problem is we got to get back to basics, to fundamentals. We can't continue to prop up the market and play this game. We got to bring ourselves back down to reality. And the reason this whole financial world hangs on every single word that the Fed puts out is because they've massively inflated the stock price with the actions they took. It's great that they finally have corrected it, but now we're going to feel that pain from that, folks. we're going to feel that pain. And you all know where I stand with the Fed. I think I covered it a couple days ago on this private entity that's ran by 6 foreign banks. But what this did, this QE, it propped up the pricing of the stocks. Everybody knows at 30 to 40%. Way above where the economic fundamentals believe it should be. And they're basing that upon the historical averages that are out there. And now it's plunging. And you're seeing it plunge into deep depression, recession areas. And they should probably fall a total of about 50%, all these stocks. If you think about it, to get back to the historical averages. And the only way that stock prices could have ever gotten this disconnected from economic reality is through the help of the Federal Reserve and their QE. And since the dollar is the primary reserve currency of the entire planet, the action the Fed was taking was fine. They let the bubble blow up because we're the reserve currency. Go ahead and print all the money you want. And I've said before, if we're not the reserve currency, we're in trouble because we're worse off than Greece, I think. And the only way to keep the money going would have been to continue to print money. But unfortunately for the investors, Yellen said, no, we're going to stop this. We're going to get it back on track. So they ended QE, and they decided to raise interest rates. If they left them unchanged, the rates unchanged, which they did yesterday, there might be another one scheduled in March. They weren't too conclusive in that. And how will the markets respond? They're up slightly today. The markets understand the reality of what's going on out there and what they're facing. They know that these stock market prices are artificially inflated. The Fed keeps tightening, and then inevitably the market's going to have to come back to earth. And that's the way a free market system works, folks. And without that artificial propping up, the artificial help of the Feds, stocks would have definitely continued to sink into oblivion. And that's because the current stock prices are not based on anything real. It's a bubble, just like the housing bubble we're going through right now. And that's going to crash too. And that's why we're seeing this whole financial crisis unfold. The magnitude of the crash is going to be much worse than what many people believe. And I believe that. Now, I said I'm not a financial guy, but I read a lot of the stuff that's out there. And I think I said yesterday, if you watch major media, you would have thought everything was going great. Obama, the market, everything, the economy is great. But if you watch alternative media, you know, the Michael Savage's, Alex Jones, different stuff that's out there. Alex Jones is a perfect example. He brings on Peter Schiff and all these financial guys, and they'll sit there and look at the numbers and give you honest feedback. But you won't see that on the major media. But it tells you where the market's going. So this is no surprise to me. It's also important to remember that the stocks tend to fall much more rapidly than they rise. So you're seeing this decrease, and it's like, whoa, wow, stepping back. It's a giant crash. What's going on? And as this whole financial crisis continues to escalate, you're going to notice certain things beginning to happen. If you own a business or you work in a business, you may start to notice that fewer people are coming through your door. Like I said, the bulk of index. You're going to see economic activity is going to slow down. You're going to see layoffs from employers. You may even see businesses shut down. And what's concerning is the number that came out from what was it? Oh God, Ovmax or whatever it was a couple weeks ago, saying that 63% of the people live paycheck to paycheck. They can't even afford a $500 emergency that pops up. You're going to see more and more of that. You know, if the Fed would have sat there and just left the interest rates where they were and never did a quantitative easing, we wouldn't have been in this issue. We would have been hit with a stock decrease, but it would have came up. You have to let normal free market conditions go. But the Fed came in. They created this artificial bubble. The coming crash is going to be much worse than it would have been back then because of their actions trying to get out of this trouble they created. And by removing this artificial support that they were giving the financial markets. What can we compare the artificial support to? It's almost like if I gave my my daughter, I give them allowances. If I were to take that away from them, And, you know, I give it a soft launch. I'll say, do this. They do it haphazardly. I still give them the money. And so, I don't know, just thinking in my head. And what we need, though, folks, is the government needs to stop meddling in economic affairs. And when they do meddle, it doesn't come to any good. But it doesn't stop these bureaucrats from getting out there and continuing to believe that they can step in, they can intercept, they can interrupt the process. They have an exception. And this last round of what happened to the economy is a perfect example. This market, the stock market's off to a lousy year. And it does. The thing that is this doesn't affect the guy on Wall Street as much because they've been watching the market. They've known this was coming. They've prepared for it. It affects the average Joe out there with the 401k that's been watching major media and not believing there was any issues out there. And this whole market is essentially a barometer of the confidence level that people are having in the economy. And if you look at it in that way, there's not a lot of confidence. You got rock bottom oil prices. I think it was up 32 today or something like that. But it's turned the energy markets upside down, thousands of layoffs. You know, we're benefiting the short term at the pump, but we're not realizing what that low oil price is doing and the domino effect it's going to have around us, and it will impact us. The ripple effect will cause job losses. Industries will go out. They'll go under. China, the devaluation there. So what gives? Freaking government meddling and everything. Federal Reserve, like I've been talking about for the last few minutes, and that whole hiking of the interest rates. It had to be done, but that's to correct something they did prior to that with QE. You know, as soon as they announced it, there were valid concerns out there in the markets. They all got jittery. They all started selling off. Everybody started referencing 2008. But like I said, it should come as no surprise, but to a few people outside this financial decision-making circles, made up the Federal Reserve governors, they're technocrats. They have an appreciation of just how much these people are screwing up the economy. Or the people that are watching my show, they do. But it's not totally fair to lay it all at the Fed's doorstep, although they've created a lot of it, like I've been talking. You know, that bank can't keep the investors from overreacting when it comes time to take corrective action. They felt, okay, we got to get out of this mess we created. Let's take corrective action. They can't hold the investors' hands and tell them stop overreacting, stop selling. But they needed to realize that their actions were going to have these side effects on various markets. Oil and commodity sell-offs. They're rooted in similar factors there. And this whole, you know, the Fed's whole slowness to tighten the monetary policies. So now that the American economy is facing a contraction of major proportions and the risk of being doomed and gloomed and in deep trouble. The bump in the road. And this bump in the road could be a ditch that gets us stuck. The Obama recovery is at jeopardy. What will we do? And this is the stuff that we need to find out. We need to ask ourselves. And I've been talking so much, I got distracted and I didn't realize what time it was. So let me get us here. I think that's going to be our show today. Remember to visit my site, the Uncensored Report .com. On that page are stories that I like, and you'll see a difference when I post them on the Scoop National page. You'll see stories that are going to refer you back to my Uncensored Report. Also go there for longevity, for minerals and vitamins, the great quality products, and you can order them. If you become a preferred vendor or something like that, you get 30% off. If you compare the pricing to GNC, same basic pricing, except you're getting the better quality of a product. And you'll help this program, because that's all I really got for me. I have some AdSense up there, but we got to drive traffic. I don't drive a lot of traffic to my site for some reason. I don't always direct them there. If I did, I could make more money. I just don't do it. It's too much of a pain. All right, so this has been Francesco Abbruzzino, Everybody have a great day. Remember to get out there, educate, inspire, and affect change. You can do this. You can do it in your community. You can do it at the national level. I am evidence of that, folks. Everybody have a great day. I will see you tomorrow.